of social, commercial, and political problems. Rising unemployment, failing harvests, a widening gulf between rich and poor, and a crisis of leadership. A prepubescent boy, Edward VI nominally led the country following the death of his father, the tyrant King Henry VIII. But a cabal of ambitious noblemen held the real power. A whiff of rebellion, perhaps even revolution, hung in the air. And to provide a physical manifestation of the country's precarious health, a virulent disease known as the sweating sickness returned for the first time in a quarter of a century, destroying lives and devastating communities. You could be dancing in the morning, the saying went, and be dead by noon. In just a few days, nearly 1,000 people perished in London. Throughout the land, conditions had grown so dire that a terrifying question loomed over the kingdom's cosmopolitan capital city as well as its countless rural villages. Can England survive? As if in answer to that existential question, a constellation of remarkable people, often linked by family ties, emerged over the course of 3 generations to seek solutions to England's ills. There were courtiers, intellectuals, scientists, writers, artists, and buccaneers. Above all, there were some of England's most prosperous merchants. Although these entrepreneurs rarely ventured overseas themselves, they masterminded a relentless stream of commercial enterprises dedicated to discovery, exploration, development, and settlement. Variously bold, obsessed, hungry for gold and glory, and driven by compelling ideas about social improvement and commercial advantage, they organized, promoted, and supported hundreds of ventures, one after another, until multiple threads of failure began to stitch into a fabric of success. In the process, they developed many of the elements that shaped America as it grew into the country we know today. They originated new corporate and political institutions workable in the New World, embraced new approaches to leadership and social organization, and applied the latest technologies and the latest thinking. They learned how to raise funding, share risk, and allocate capital in ventures with unpredictable outcomes. And most strikingly, they learned how to overcome seemingly insuperable challenges, accept and learn from failure, and cherish the quality that Americans have come to regard as quintessentially their own: perseverance. In New World Inc., we tell their story, the prequel to the Pilgrims. And insofar as their actions help to usher in the modern world, it is our story too. Part 1. Before America, 1551 to 1574. Chapter 1. Waxing cold and in decay. The story begins with sheep. By the middle of the 16th century, there were 11 million sheep throughout England, outnumbering human beings by around 4 to 1. They grazed everywhere, on the tiny tracts of land rented by peasant farmers, as well as on the great estates of noblemen, bishops, and abbots. Their ubiquity was attributable to one factor: the age-old importance of wool to the English economy. The hardy English sheep had long flourished in the cold northerly climate, grazing on land that was, as one contemporary put it, so fruitful that if overnight a wand or rod be laid upon it, by the morning it shall be covered with grass of that night's growth. In these conditions, they grew a golden fleece of fine, dense fibers that could, once sheared, carded, fulled, tucked, and dried, be spun into a wonderfully warm and weatherproof cloth. As early as the 12th century, raw English wool was exported to the Low Countries, then the epicenter of Europe's cloth-making industry, and textile makers there considered it to be the finest in Europe. The Low Countries broadly encompass modern-day Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. In 1343, King Edward III